the last thing Nikolas Cruz will hear before starting his life sentence.
You did not receive the justice that you deserved.
Is the words of his victim's parents. Focus on Florida.
Democracy is on the ballot this year.
The president visits our area ahead of next week's midterm election. And Florida Gators protesting after a change in leadership. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Samantha Gutierrez.
And I'm Julian Davis. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022.
Live from the South Florida Media Network's Biscayne-based studios in North Miami, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
Some strong testimony. Parkland parents and other relatives could only talk about their loved ones during Nikolas Cruz's sentencing trial. Now they're talking right to him. Cruz is getting sentenced to life in prison later today, not the death penalty. There's nothing the families or prosecutors can do to stop that.
But as the network's Lauren Wirtz reports, survivors and parents do get the last word.
At the Broward County Courthouse, the victims' family members have a chance to let the judge know what they think is the appropriate punishment for the confessed Parkland school shooter, Nikolas Cruz.
But what we've been told here is that 17 lives are worth nothing if you can make enough excuses for your actions. He has gotten everything he's wanted in this case, and we are left with nothing and a slap in the face to top it off.
The Parkland school shooter's two-day sentencing hearing began with statements from families who lost loved ones. It was the first time they were able to directly address the shooter in court.
You stole him from us, and you did not receive the justice that you deserved. There is no mitigating circumstance that will ever outweigh the heinous and cruel way you stole him from us.
I hope your ever-breathing moment here on earth is miserable, and you repent for your sins, Nikolas, and burn in hell.
Well, every day without Gina is tough. Today, we hope to begin wrapping up the sentencing of the mass murderer who took her life, and getting him out of the public eye will be helpful to all of our families.
With the final emotional testimony from the victims' family members, the chapter of Nikolas Cruz can now come to an end. For South Florida Media Network, Lauren Wirtz.
A presidential push for Democratic candidates in both Broward and Miami-Dade last night. The network's Kenya Cardone with more on what President Biden had to say in South Florida.
Already just less than a week away from Election Day, and members of the Democratic Party have gathered here to rally up Floridians to hit the polls, including President Joe Biden himself. The floors and walls of the Florida Memorial University Arena trembled from the yells and stomps of the crowd. Democratic candidates including Charlie Crist, Carla Hernandez, Val Demings, and more all teaming up to make their final efforts to get everyone to vote. President Biden showing out, stressing the power that Florida holds to get the Democratic Party to control Congress. The president considering this a high-stakes event, claiming there's far more on the ballot than what's officially printed on it.
Democracy is on the ballot this year.
The speakers took time to call out their rivals.
So, did you watch the debate last week? What happened to that guy?
Many in the crowd leaving the event with hopes that people will use these final days to hit the polls and get their friends and families to do the same.
I think that those present really benefited from hearing from our elected leaders, and I hope that next week, Tuesday, November 8th, that we come out in waves.
And if anyone saw January 6th, like all of us did live, there is some really, really, really deranged and demonic things happening to this country, and we need to stamp it out now.
And we just want to go ahead and remind you that Election Day is November 8th, and South Florida Media Network has you covered. Just head on over to sfmn.fiu.edu to check out our voter's guide. In Miami Gardens, I'm Kenya Cardone, South Florida Media Network.
Students at the University of Florida still furious today over their newly appointed president. Protests broke out on campus yesterday after the university's Board of Trustees unanimously approved Republican U.S. Senator Ben Sasse to be the 13th president. SAS will soon replace the current University of Florida's president, Kent Fox, who has held the title since 2015.
The man accused of attacking Paul Pelosi, who is the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has pleaded not guilty on all charges. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for Friday. David DePop is currently being charged with attempted murder, burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, and false imprisonment. DePop's lawyer says his team is planning a, quote, comprehensive investigation into the incident.
Powerhouse Miami art collectors Mara and Don Rubel are known for their museum that showcases edgy art and for taking artists to the next level. Now, they're looking to shake things up in the nation's capital. Reporter Juliana Narvaez is at their DC bureau with more.
That's right. We're here today at the grand opening of the Rubel Art Museum in Washington, D.C. The Rubels aim to have this museum serve as an advocate for both the public and the art scene to be able to engage in dialogue about socio-political issues. The museum is housed in the historic former Cardozo Elementary and the Randall Junior High School. The first exhibit inaugurating the museum is called What's Going On, named for the 1971 album and song by Marvin Gaye, a former student of Randall High. Various pieces of art by Keith Haring allude to the song and album, which critique the Vietnam War and social injustices.
To see a museum, a respected museum house here that has so many Black artists, Black women artists, feels like an indicator that us as a city is moving in the right direction, and the art world as a whole has a little more space for us.
The museum brought together more than 190 works by 50 artists who are responding to pressing social and political issues, such as racism and abortion. Various themes continue throughout, from the history of slavery and genocide of indigenous populations to women's rights.
So it's really nice to be able to see some other representation, some historical revisionism that's bringing light to colonial past, history of slavery, that sort of thing.
The new facility, located in Southwest Washington, less than a mile from the National Mall, shows a unique sweep of contemporary art that cannot be found elsewhere, ranging from seminal works by artists the Rubels met over 50 years ago and those by artists they just met last week.
The Rubel Museum will be open from Wednesdays to Sundays year-round. Admission is free for DC residents and only $15 for non-residents. From Washington, D.C. for the South Florida Media Network, this is Juliana Narvaez.
The Florida Panthers froze out in a Cats versus Dog match against the Arizona Coyotes. The Cats were able to keep the game tied for the first two periods, only having each team score one goal. But in the final period, the Coyotes were able to knock in 2 goals for the win. The score was Panthers 1, Coyotes 3. The Panthers will play against the San Jose Sharks tomorrow at 10:30 p.m.
After a 2-game losing streak in California, the Miami Heat were able to find their rhythm here at home in a rematch against the Golden State Warriors. The Heat kept it close, maintaining a lead for the first half until the end of the third quarter, where the Warriors took the lead. But the Heat were able to come back in the final moments of the game to defeat the defending world champions. The final score was Warriors 109 and Heat 116. The Heat play the Sacramento Kings here at home today at 7 p.m.
A watch party along Florida's Space Coast for something that hasn't been seen in the last 3 years.
That's still ahead, and so is this story.
People love the youth there. The families get out there. It's a lot of fun to watch them. They really enjoy it, especially the kids.
It's the time of the year for the sticky buns that people in Miami believe are worth long drives and long lines. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
If a natural disaster shows up at your doorstep, you can't just turn it away. That's why it's important to prepare for emergencies before they show up. Go to ready.gov/plan to find the tools and tips you need. And make a plan today.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
It's a fall rite of passage in South Florida. First you wait the line, then you take a bite of the sticky buns from Newsbreak Farm. The farm is in the Redlands area of southwest Miami-Dade, and it's quite a drive for most of us.
But as the network's Christy Hernandez reports, some people have been making that drive for decades.
It's officially fall in Miami. It's that time of year again for shakes and cinnamon roll because Newsbreak Farm has reopened. These famous cinnamon rolls have plenty of people standing in line for several hours.
The third one in line, I got here at 4:02 a.m. Typically the first, second, or third, always.
October 25th was the official start of the season, and opening week was a sweet success.
The first week went really well. We had a really good turnout on people, and we seemed to turn out a lot of cinnamon rolls. That's what people come for, is the cinnamon rolls. But it was a really good week. Everybody was happy, our customers were happy, and that's what we strive for, is happy customers. Every day we sold out right around 5 o'clock.
Herb married into the family business. His wife Rachel is co-owner with her sister Susan and her husband. This family-owned business and South Florida tradition has been in Homestead since 1956.
We've been coming for 20 plus years or so, I guess, for a long time, and we come 2 or 3 times a year. Cinnamon rolls, they're all good. Got up early, stand in line, and it's all good.
Newsbreak Farm is also known for its U-pick of strawberries and tomatoes, which should be ready by December 4th.
People love the U-pick. The families get out there. It's a lot of fun to watch them. They really enjoy it, especially the kids.
A few things to keep in mind. Remember, this is a cash-only business. Newsbreak Farm is open from Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and the season runs through mid-April. I'm Christy Hernandez for the South Florida Media Network.
SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket is back in space this morning for the first time since 2019. Hundreds watched from near Cape Canaveral for yesterday's launch. It was in Kennedy Space Center this time. The most powerful operational rocket in the world is back on a mission for the U.S. Space Force.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Julian Davis.
I'm Samantha Gutierrez. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.